Welcome to the MTSS Monday Minute for July 11th, 2022. We will continue to use the video framework of exploration, perspectives and resources, and wrap up. So for today's Monday Minute, I want to do a little field trip and try something new where you will watch a video within this video that helps us to understand Maine's MTSS framework as it aligns with Maine's whole student framework approach. And so for this video, I want to consider this. Maine's MTSS framework contains 4 main pillars that are rooted in scientific research shown to be effective MTSS best practices. The pillars are aligned with Maine's whole student framework: safe, supported, engaged, challenged, and healthy. And so follow along as we watch this video about the Maine's MTSS framework. And if you have a difficulty accessing the audio to this, then I will most definitely leave the link to this video in the description box below.
Hi everyone. So today I wanted to do something a little bit different. I wanted to take a moment and go through Maine's MTSS framework as it aligns with Maine's whole school framework for student success. And so if you navigate to the maine.gov/DOE/MTSS website, you will come to the MTSS landing page. And on that home landing page, there's a graphic that demonstrates Maine's MTSS framework. And what you'll notice after you read the description of the framework, that there's this circular graphic that takes a look at the 4 main pillars of Maine's MTSS framework. Each of these pillars align and work together to create a multi-tiered system of support, or in other words, a multi-tiered school of supports that helps us to create systems and environments where all students can thrive. And so first I want to take a look at the importance of Tier 1. Now, many of our student support systems that are in place often focus very heavily on the interventions and processes of interventions that target upper tiers of interventions, such as Tiers 2, Tiers 3, and even special education. One of the areas that we are looking to align more closely with the whole school framework approach is to really open up that lens and take a different look at from a Tier 1 perspective. And so when thinking about Maine's MTSS framework, the Tier 1 perspective really has 2 distinct features. The first being the idea of prevention over intervention. The next idea being instructional practice for all students, and how we are thinking about adjusting and making recommendations for intentional improvements to instructional practice for all students, and not just who we might consider to be a struggling student. The prevention over intervention aligns closely with last week's M&M, where we asked the question of, is it an intervention? And we talked about how interventions have 2 distinct criteria: the narrowing of focus and the increase in time when considering how we are supporting students as we identify their specific needs. The next pillar of the MTS framework centers around problem solving, and centering around this idea that we need to be thinking of our systems through a comprehensive problem solving lens that allows us to be strategic in our efforts to target the needs of students as they arise, when they arise. And so we really focus on this one question of, how are students doing with the content being taught? meaning how is second grade doing with the second grade curriculum, the second grade instructional practices? How is third grade doing with the third grade curriculum? Are 80% or more of my students meeting expectations in the tier one setting? Are less than 80% of my students meeting expectations in the tier one setting? And what might be contributing to the lack of percentage of students that are meeting or exceeding expectations in, say, the grade 2, grade 3, grade 12 setting? And so establishing a problem solving protocol that is used regularly and consistently and has accompanying decision rules that allow for strategic decision making is a huge component to a well functioning MTSS framework in your school. The third pillar of Maine's MTSS framework focuses on the idea of educator support. And when we're thinking about educator support here, the big thing to think about is that all educators are interventionists. All educators are also preventionists. And so your second grade teacher is just as much of an interventionist as, say, your Title I director or your Title I coordinator or your Title I interventionist. When we take on this idea that every person that's inside our building is an interventionist, it opens up how we think about supporting those interventionists. A couple of things to keep in mind when thinking about educator support is this simple but not easy equation that allows us to really consider what actually needs to change for students. And so you'll notice here that I have this little equation, A plus B equals C. And what I mean here is that adults plus their behaviors equals change for students. Ultimately meaning that change for students lies in the behavior of the adults that are supporting them and the adults that are supporting each other. And so when we're thinking about how the adults in our buildings are working together, thinking about how our expertise as individuals need to find areas where they cross over to support each other as a shared expertise, rather than thinking about how each expertise can support different groups of students. It gets a little bit muddy in the middle, but over time you start to see how we create these systems of educator supports, and then ultimately we strengthen the framework so that we can see change and consistency for student supports. The fourth pillar of Maine's MTSS framework comes down to blended delivery. And this idea being all students, all educators, and all hands on deck. You'll notice that blended delivery really blends in nicely with this idea of educator support and that all hands on deck approach. We may be functioning or working in schools right now where you might say, yeah, we have an all hands on deck approach. Of course we do. Yeah, we educate all students. Yeah, we support all of our educators. But how we blend these things together with a problem solving framework and a focus on tier one can really have a positive impact on the overall success of our students and the overall success of our school. And so that's Maine's MTSS framework. And if you want to learn more about Maine's MTSS framework, you can visit the MTSS webpage by navigating to maine.gov/DOE/MTSS. And as always, let me know if you have any questions or you want to talk further about any of these ideas.
All right, so don't forget to get your minutes counted. After you're done watching Maine's MTSS framework video, let me know in the comments below what features resonate the most with you. What questions do you have? What are you doing in your school that supports the implementation of this framework that's going well and that you may be able to share with others?